My name is Leo Connors, and welcome to The Ring and All Other Sports. Tonight, I got a guest and a co-host. Co-hosted Maverick Wild, and my guest is Chris Angus, also known as Scarecrow. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Hi, Mav.
Hi.
Point of correction, it's the Scarecrow.
The Scarecrow. I'm sorry. See, guys, you have no idea.
Did he call you the Scarecrow? He does have an accent.
I'll definitely post about this. I'm not going to get into it, but this is kind of funny. But, all right.
Very good.
Chris, where did you grow up?
Grew up in. I've moved around a little bit. Grew up in Taunton, Massachusetts.
Okay, that's the hometown of Joel Davis.
Oh, God.
That is real deal, Joel Davis.
Whoa.
I worked against him at what was the name of the place? Club Escapades on 138.
Nice.
Most people work with people, but yeah, with Joel, you'd work against him.
Hey, you're going to get me in trouble with Joel again.
I was, my gimmick that night is I was from Brockton, and I just kept repeating the city of champions, and how, like, Taunton was a dirtball city, and I'm an actual champion because I'm from the city of champions.
That's awesome. When did you first see pro wrestling?
Little kid, you know, when I was 7, 8 years old. I was at the time upstate New York, and we'd go to shows. I remember going to Albany Colony Yankee Stadium to see Hulk Hogan fought Greg the Hammer Valentine. Wow. Harley Race was at that show.
Nice.
I think my brother got a high five from Hogan, like, you know, didn't wash his hand for like a week and a half. But so yeah, so I remember my old man, he recorded Sergeant Slaughter versus the Iron Sheik and like a no holds barred, falls count anywhere.
Right.
And you know, like they showed up and he was wearing like his the helmet and everything like that, and Bloodfest, and so yeah, big fans back then. And then I wasn't a Hulkamaniac by any means, but I loved probably Macho Man was my favorite one back then.
Have you ever noticed that like a lot of the guys that have been around for a while, Hogan's not like ever their favorite wrestler?
I think Hogan, anyone who like is way into wrestling doesn't like Hogan, and anyone that's like a tangential fan thinks Hogan's the bomb.
Yeah, I agree with that.
You know what I mean? But like I never really savvied to Hogan.
Yeah,
and then so I fell out of it, and then when I was in college is when like the Monday Night Wars were going.
Right.
And so I got way back. I had put on some size, right? I like from lifting weights and stuff like that from sports. I was like, well, maybe this is something I could do.
Right.
And like just watching it, became like a huge fan. Still hated Hogan.
Yeah.
But like, you know, the first 2 hours of Nitro were like awesome because it was all like they'd call them, you know, the mid-card guys with the Jerichos and, you know, Eddie Guerrero and the Malenkos and, you know, all those dudes.
In the Maverick Wilds.
And the Maverick Wilds.
One show I did for them. Stop it.
Counts. Count it.
Still one of the best stories on this show ever. All right, so were your friends or family into it too? Like?
Yeah, like, you know, they were, yeah, my dad liked it and, you know, got us into it and stuff like that. He never would admit that it, like, was, you know, choreographed or however it was. He's like, oh, I'm pretty sure that this, you know, they're really fighting. So we were all in hook, line, and sinker. But, you know, it's a typical thing. Like, my brother, my dad, we were all into it. And, you know, mom probably thought it was stupid, but, you know.
Right.
I like that your dad kept you in the dark.
Well, yeah. Well, especially back then, dude. Yeah. It wasn't exactly common knowledge.
No.
You know.
Absolutely not.
But what's he going to do, ruin it?
That's true. Well.
Right. All right. So some of your favorites, so you already said, was like Macho Man and stuff. Did you like Snooker too?
No. I mean, from that era, it was Macho Man. You know, I like early Shawn Michaels. I like the smaller, kind of faster guys, I guess.
Mr. Perfect.
Mr. Perfect. I did like Andre just because it was a spectacle.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. But I mean, I used to cheer for Hogan sometimes when my kids would be there. You know what I mean? Like, I had to. But I mean, I was never, ever a Hulkamaniac.
Oh, Roddy Piper, obviously.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'd have been more of a fan of Hulk Hogan if I was working there and making money off of his. You know,
well, yeah.
That's the thing. He's a lot of people look at him like, you know, he really wasn't that good. No, he was a massive moneymaker.
Exactly. He put asses in the seats, and that's the most important thing in professional wrestling, right?
Well, dude, I'm a little kid. I'm not like.
Well, yeah,
I'm not negotiating his work.
Yeah, you're not analyzing what he does.
I just thought it was just like enough already.
Yeah.
Like I thought that the act got kind of like when the Mega Powers exploded, I was fired up.
Right.
Because finally, I didn't realize at the time that the face is always going to go over at the end. But like at the time, I'm like, yes, Macho Man's going to kill this guy.
Right. So when did you know that pro wrestling was something you wanted to try?
Yeah. So like I was in college. I played hockey and baseball in college. And so the summer I turned 21, you know, working out, I managed to put on like 20 pounds that summer. So I got like, you know, a little bit big and stuff like that. Super fan. And quite frankly, I was going to graduate. I didn't have a whole lot going on. Like I wasn't, you know, walking into a law firm or anything like that. And so I was literally started looking through newspapers, and that's when I discovered the Kowalski School.
Right.
And, you know, I had a regular ham and egger job, and I could, you know, do the Kowalski School and start training and kind of just see how it goes.
Now, was that at Richard Burns' dojo? Okay.
Yeah,
You
in
started
Malden.
over there, huh? Really?
Wow.
So, I was over there. You know, Mike Hollow was the head trainer.
Right.
Duke Dalton was like sort of the helper, you know, sort of sub-trainer there.
Who's a guy you really should get on the show
Yeah.
if you could possibly drag him out of the house.
Yeah, he probably must know a ton of stuff. Who's the, he looks just like me now, bald guy.
It's all of us at this point.
Yeah, I know. But he had like a motorcycle gimmick. Gosh, that's insulting. I can't remember his name.
Wow. I can't even think.
His heart skipped a beat during a match I had with him. I had a stroke that night. And I felt pretty bad about it. But like Arch Kincaid was there at the time. Vince Vicalo, Aaron Stevens, Psycho towards the end of the time there.
Psycho.
Big Mike Stud. You know, Cue Ball was around. So it was good, pretty good.
Yeah, definitely. A lot of good talent that came out of there.
Louis Ortiz.
Oh, come on, right? Was Rumble there too?
Tony Rumble, no.
No, Jason.
Jason Rumble, no.
Okay.
He had sort of, I was never in any class with him.
Okay. All right. How about Slick?
Yes, Slick Wagner Brown, absolutely. He was like, I mean, like, you know, when you go there and you're training, you figure out who like kind of like best guys are, and like he was at the top of the heap there.
Yeah. And he's got a great thing going down in Connecticut called Tester
Well, wasn't he the trainer after Mike left anyways?
I wouldn't know.
Okay, I think he was.
I never really, like, I was kind of out of it once if Mike left or whatever like that. Because I went from Kowalski's to the Chaotic Training Center, which was still just like basically Mike Holland, pretty much all the same guys.
Right. And Killer came back too to that.
Yep.
At the end. So, I mean, it wasn't like they ended on bad terms.
Oh, no.
They got
No, that
back
wasn't what I was
together.
talking about.
Yeah.
I know
like an
Mike had moved
evolution.
on.
Right.
I just knew Mike had moved on and
Right.
Slick had taken over.
I was out of it by the time Mike moved on.
Yeah.
Okay. And, so you already told us about your first show. What about your first indie show? Did you wrestle on it, or did you go to an indie show before you got in the business?
Did you even know they existed?
I went into an indie show in college. So we were all fans, and I remember the headliner was King Kong Bundy.
Nice.
And so I got, I got my picture in the ring with me and my buddies. We were all loaded, but like with King Kong Bundy, and like
Nice.
I was wearing like the shirt that I thought I would want to wear when I became a wrestler and all that kind of stuff.
That's wild. But a lot of people put Bundy over, like, because he did the indies around here.
Yeah.
And he treated everybody like gold. So that's like the stories I've heard.
So like I wouldn't know any of that backstage stuff because like again I was just like a fan.
Right.
But I will say like as a fan I was it really it made me more excited to get into it because like I'm looking at some of the dudes I'm like I'm bigger than that guy. And like dude's barely an athlete. And, that guy's pants are saggy. Like what the hell?
And then now today they're even smaller.
Yeah.
And it is what it is. I'm just saying. I mean.
Well,
good wrestling's good wrestling.
That's why I stopped, quite frankly.
Yeah.
Because I got, I actually read Mick Foley's book. And I didn't, actually, of course, I can read a book. But anyway, I read the book, and like he detailed exactly everything he went through. You know what I mean?
Right.
And it was familiar, but like, my God, he's like 2 hours to training, and like mine was like 45 minutes, and he's just going through it all. And I was at a point where like I kind of had to like kind of make a really move to like get really into this to try and get something resembling a shot or like do something else.
Right.
Yeah.
So I'm like 27-ish, maybe 26. And to be fair, I just wasn't willing to like work at Home Depot overnight so I could spend all my day training and all that kind of stuff. And I was working at Jillian's nightclub as a manager, so like to get a Saturday night off was like kind of a big deal. So I couldn't keep blowing off work for like a $25 payday.
That makes sense.
So it's like I kind of was like, you know what? And I didn't want to be like that old guy in an indie show.
Right.
Because I still could have gotten work. I just wouldn't be training at all.
Right.
So it'd be like I'm taking a bump for the first time in a month. And that's just not conducive to like a good match. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, absolutely.
Especially if I'm working with some guy that's like working his ass off.
Right.
You know, I'm going to be like an anchor. So it was just like, you know what? You know, good enough. I told Chaotic Wrestling, and we dropped the tag team straps. That was my last match was up in Maine. And I got paid $50 because Chaotic was a good payday, but I had to pay $60 for a license to be a wrestler in Maine.
Right.
So I paid $60, got paid $50, so I lost money on the gig, and that's pretty appropriate.
That sounds like wrestling. Yeah.
Sounds about right. I thought I went off on a good note.
And who was your tag team partner that night?
Big Mike Stud.
Big Mike Stud.
We were attrition.
Nice. All right, so we talked about some of your places where you wrestled.
Sure.
You know, and like you said, you wrestled for Chaotic. You wrestled for them quite a bit.
Yes, I did. I liked them a lot. I thought it was, you know, compared to the scene, I guess, and like other shows and other organizations, I thought they were sort of the most pro, the most well run. The fact that they would give you like a sheet at the beginning, you know, before the show,
to
be
show
like,
you what's
here's
going
the
on.
matches, here's the time, here's
Right.
you know our sort of plan, whatever like that. It was just it was a nice, well-oiled machine, which you didn't get a lot at some of the other organizations.
Right.
Which I mean, okay, if that's how they want to do it, that's how they want to do it. But like, I kind of like that aspect of it.
Right. Was it Randy Miller? Or was it Jamie?
Both.
Oh, okay. So,
They're both there. Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Man, yeah. So, and I don't know what happened to those guys, but like, yeah, they were both around at that time.
Well, Jamie ended up as the sole owner for a short bit.
Yep.
And then he got this kid that I know, Mark Beaudry. I've known him for over 30 years. He ended up buying into Chaotic.
Okay.
They're done. They sold to Fury, Brian Fury.
Okay.
And then now it's Chase Del Monte.
Okay.
So.
I was, the first show I took my kids to was a Chaotic show.
Yeah.
In like Wakefield or something like that. And we saw Bear Country and MJF.
Yeah.
Like before
Yeah.
the big AEW thing. So it was
They came from the same school.
pretty good,
Creative Pro.
pretty good first show for the
Yeah.
kids, right?
Yeah, really.
Not bad. And it was, I mean, again, what's his face? The retrosexual Anthony Green
Oh,
was
yeah.
there.
Yeah. He's in Japan right now.
Josh Woods? I think he has a
Josh
development
Woods, yeah,
deal.
Ring of Honor.
Yep.
Yeah,
Okay.
he was world champ for Ring of Honor.
Yeah.
Not Josh Woods, I take it back.
No.
Who's the long-haired local kid? He's got a development deal for WWE now.
It is Josh.
Josh Briggs.
Josh Briggs. Yes.
Yeah,
With
yeah.
the long
Got
hair.
his hair.
Yeah. But had to wear the shoulder brace all the
Yeah.
time.
Yeah. So like, you know, it's like, you know, I'm like, whoa, it's a pretty loaded show.
No, Chaotic still puts on good shows.
Yep.
They do. They definitely do. Now, what I know you said you wrestled for Primal Conflict.
I did.
Fam. And how was that working for
You know what?
Donnie?
Definitely not as professional. But boy, did I love it.
Yeah.
I thought it was great. You know, me and like a bunch of us, we were all huge ECW marks. Right. And it just reminded me of like the local version of
Absolutely.
like ECW. I was pals with Nemesis. I was pals with Jamie Payne. They were doing super crazy stuff. I wasn't quite there, but like I was willing to do extreme wrestling, like putting your body on the line, stuff like that, like stupid dives and
Yeah.
like jumps. I just didn't want to like blade or like light myself on fire.
Yeah.
What fun are you?
For 40 people.
Right.
I mean, I would have. If you
Were you there that night?
put
Jamie?
$100 put 100 people in the room and we'll talk. But
Right.
what? Oh God, was I? I don't think I was there for that night.
Oh man, I mean, I see the video.
he's on the table
footage
and
I'm
stuff,
like,
right?
I
What do we?
can't
What am I?
watch the whole thing.
I only wrestled one show for Primal Conflict, and it really wasn't even their show. It was like a combined charity show someplace.
Was that in Somerville?
Yes, it
was
was.
there.
And you were there. Yes, I remember.
I did a suicide dive over the corner of the ring.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
And I'm lucky enough to have that match with Jamie Payne. I'm lucky enough to have
Really?
that match on video. And Jamie Payne absolutely saved my life because I really wasn't close enough to him.
Right.
And I started like into the forward roll and he kind of got his hand up underneath so like I didn't smash my head right on the ground. Now, I think I would have lived. I just think I would have gone back first onto the cement. So he kind of like saved me a little bit. And then we had a nice show. But yeah, I was at that show too. That was minutes from my house.
What a strange combination of because you had everything that they did, and then a bunch of local guys who looked at that stuff. I'm not doing any of that. There was somebody who got hit with a turkey that had been just frosted for like 3 or 4. I think they ended up with salmonella on the show for 26 hours.
So that show was Balls Mahoney was that show,
Yes.
and Balls and I were working together. There was me and Jamie, and then Balls was going to come in, and him and Jamie were doing a thing, and then would wind up with me and Balls. The theory was, or the story is that at the Primal Conflict show in Wakefield, Balls Mahoney gave me this like wicked chair shot. Now that was my first chair shot ever.
Right.
And you know the Primal guys were like, "Hey man, do you ever take a chair shot?" I'm like, "Yeah, all the time." Are you kidding me? I'm like a pro.
Right.
And they're like, "Well, you can take one from Balls tonight. Is that cool?" I'm like, "It would be my honor." And so, like a total ECW mark, I don't even consider putting my hands up.
Right.
And so it's the chair shot happens, and it's just like a flash of white light, and I'm on the ground. And like, you know, the crowd's like, you know, barfing in their seats and stuff like that. I roll out, I throw myself down the stairs, I keep selling it, and you know, it went well. Someone took a picture of it, which I still have. It's the chair just wrapped around my head.
Yeah.
Brutal. So at any rate, and that was a really fun show. Tommy Dreamer was there.
Yeah.
And
Tommy's an awesome dude.
if you want, I can tell you a story about that show. But anyway, so the next time we're seeing each other is at this charity thing in Somerville. Now, when I say that there's like maybe 6 paying fans in the crowd.
Oh, probably. Yeah.
Yeah?
Oh, yeah.
So there's 50 people in the crowd, but like 43 of them were wrestlers.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
So, like,
Yeah.
he's like, okay,
can
so
see
here's what's
that.
going to happen, man. He's like, you got to get over on me for that thing in Wakefield. I'm like, no, I don't.
There's 7 people here.
He's like, what do you mean? I go, dude, nobody remembers that. Like, this isn't on TV. Like, it was an indie show like 2 months ago somewhere else.
And it's not even like their complete show.
Right, and this isn't even like the crowd. He's like, no. So here's what's gonna happen. So like, you know, yada yada yada. Him and Jamie do all the crazy stuff. You know,
Right.
I come back in, and I'm gonna hit him with the chair. He's like, not once, but 3 times. I'm like, Balls, don't do this. It's not necessary. He's like, it's not, because he had already like was bleeding, you know. And so I hit him the first time, and he's like, oh, and I'm like, okay. And second time, and like he's hurt. And I'm not easing up at all because he wouldn't do that.
No, exactly.
And he's down. He's making these really weird sounds, like and these blood's coming out of his head. I'm like, don't get up. I go, just stay down, dude. It's fine. Just stay down. He rears up. I hit him, kick, you know, powder out, and I'm just like, what is wrong with this guy?
Yeah, he was definitely crazy.
And then after the show, he's like, great job, Scarecrow. That was awesome, man. Thanks. He's like, hey, man, you live around here, right? Like, I lived like maybe, it was, I lived down the road in Somerville at the time, like maybe 300 yards away. And he's like, hey, man, it's Sunday night. He's like, you think me and my old lady could maybe come over and, you know, hang out? And I go, the exact words out of my mouth, I go, gee, Balls, not really comfortable with that. I can imagine my roommates, like this 300-pound monster shows up. And
Blood all over him.
Blood all over him,
He
blowing
hasn't
lines
changed.
off my plexiglass, you know, coffee table. So it's like, nah, I don't think that's the move, buddy.
Apparently should have changed his name to 8 Ball.
Yeah. Thanks for offering, though. Really nice guy, though.
No, that's what everybody says. He was a very nice guy.
He was desperate for me to get over on him for like this incident in Wakefield. I'm like, okay, I guess.
No, but all the stories I've heard, and I've heard a lot of stories about Balls Mahoney, and all of them end with one of the nicest guys that ever met.
You know
Seriously.
what? He kind of survived that like ECW gobble up. He was on WWE TV.
They liked him for a while.
And like if he could have just straightened himself out a little bit, he could have like been
Could've
huge.
made it longer.
Well, he came out of Smoky Mountain.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, he went down there with Candido and Tammy. That was Jim Cornette, Smoky Mountain.
Sure.
Yeah, it's
You
Boo
know?
Bradley, I believe.
Yes.
But I mean, he had a good wrestling mind, and like he
definitely
worked
did.
hard, and like
No, he was no dummy.
he's great on TV. So I don't know, man. But hey, you know, it is what it is.
Just real
And he
self-abusive. That's a little
And
much.
he was a vampire.
And he was a
He was a
vampire.
vampire.
He was a vampire,
Yeah.
really. I did not know that.
I'm telling you, that's what he used to say.
No, he's like, yeah, I
Drink
worship.
the blood.
He goes, oh, I'm a Satanist, you know, like I worship the devil. I'm like, that's cool. Like I don't mind. Whatever you do. He's like, no, like for real. Like I'm like, yeah, I get it.
Right.
I still think it's stupid, but like I still get it. I understand you're very earnest.
Okay, pick a destiny. Awesome.
Oh, that's hilarious, though. That really is. What are some of the companies you worked for?
You know, I don't like remember all like Yankee Pro. I think was one of them.
Joe and Judio.
Okay.
It was probably Ricard. Actually, that probably wasn't Steve Ricard at that point.
Would it be? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know. So, gosh, the first few shows I worked were like through Walter. Like I was like a member of like a battle royal, you know, stuff like that.
Yeah.
Captain Lou was like the first show I went to. What's the one that we did? It was up north. north of Boston, where like Yokozuna was there and like Bret Hart made like an appearance at the end.
Nice.
I was just in, you know, super green, so I was just doing like a battle royal scene. But like, oh, it was just so cool to be like back there. And like, here's Yokozuna. I'm like, oh my god, I know this guy. And he bought like $1 zillion worth of like Chinese food from Kowloon, and like he's sitting there and he's just like eating. I'm like, is this guy gonna wrestle after eating all this?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, no, for sure.
He's gonna eat some more.
But then he's like, what are you guys looking at? Get over here. So we're like, oh, okay, cool. But like, you know, I was nervous. I didn't want to fill up on like teriyaki wings and then go blow lunch in the ring. So, you know, I took it easy.
All families like that. They did.
It's great.
I did a show in Nova Scotia years ago. And I was just in doing jobs, and of course, frightened to death, green as hell. And I get invited to go into the room with the Samoans and Yokozuna because I got to talk over my match with the Samoans. And I almost ruined my wrestling boots because the entire floor was just covered in lobster shells. You literally hear me rock, crunch, crunch,
right?
Crunch, crunch.
Awesome.
Yeah. I'm like, I got to work with these guys. This is going to be awesome.
Tony Atlas was around back then, too.
He's actually still around today.
I mean, he was around that group of that organization.
Yeah.
And I worked a match with him. I think it was like a tag or something like that, because there was this girl that he was also being trained up. He was like tagged with her.
Okay.
Nightingale, maybe, I don't know. But I remember because we're talking about what to do, and he's like, okay, I'm going to give you, you know, he's obviously like, you know, I'm gonna give you 3 hip tosses. That's like his comeback, you know what I mean? And then knock you out of the ring or whatever, like and this and that. So it's like, all right. So like I'm feeding in for the first one, feeding for the second one, feeding for the third. I get up to feeding for like the close. And he's like, slow down, man. So I'm blown up. I'm like, you're blown up. I'm the one taking these things. And I'm like, right.
I got a Tony Atlas story.
Yeah,
It's like, I don't mean to walk all over you, but so I wrestled Rick Fuller one night, like on a Saturday night. I came into a dressing room at some bar show we were doing the next night, covered in welts, just red marks everywhere. And Tony's like, boy, who did that to you? And he's supposed to be working with Rick, and he's never met him.
Right.
I go, oh, it was with Rick. Oh, don't worry, you're going to know him really well in about an hour. He took Rick aside and up front said, you ain't doing to me what you did to him.
Right. That's hilarious.
I had a match with Rick Fuller. I think it was for Chaotic. And we sit down, and he goes, all right there, Mr. Crow. What is it that you'd like to do today? And I'm like, hey man, like this is your show, like, you know, why don't we maybe put this together like together, and you can tell me what you know. So I do the match. He obviously beat the hell out of me, but I actually had some offense, and we worked like a regular, like an 8-minute match, you know. And I come and like at one point I got like chopped off the corner of the ring, and like I went straight down to the floor, like I missed the apron. It was like, gosh. Damn, that hurt. So I get in the back, you know, like limping and stuff like that. And they're like, wow, he doesn't usually give people any sort of offense. He must really like you. I'm like, that's great, thanks.
And the thing about Rick was always just, you got to stand there and take what he's going to give you.
Take it,
and then he's fine. If you wince or peel off, you're going to get it.
Oh, yeah, so you just got to know how to work, right?
Yeah.
He did this one kid who looked like Buff Bagwell.
Yeah.
It was like, his gimmick was he was like Buff Bagwell's like cousin or something like that. He looked exactly like Buff Bagwell. But he was like an absolute crowbar.
Right.
You know what I mean? And so like Rick hits him and he's like, you know, throwing like rabbit punches like this, and Fuller's like, and you can just see his eyes roll like while he's doing this. He's like, oh, this kid is done.
Yep.
Just not getting it, but
there was another guy though that was on the Nitros too, Rick Fuller. He was on a few too.
Oh, he wrestled Goldberg.
Yeah, yep. He wrestled Goldberg, Roadblock. That's what he won.
Yeah.
I was a fan of Rick Fuller. I'm like, I watch you like all the time.
I was there for his classic
guy,
I was there for his classic match with Ice Train.
Right. But I mean, he's so massive, a big dude.
Yeah, he always was.
You know?
Big dude, big head, the whole deal.
Yeah. Absolutely. Matter of fact, he was in the fighter too.
No kidding.
Yeah, the fight. He was the bouncer
I didn't even notice.
at the Cosmo.
Really?
Yeah, and let me tell you something. The Cosmo didn't look like that back then. It was a dive bar. They made it into like a social club in the movie. Do you know what I mean?
Well, you know, I think you got a legit beef.
All right. Well, I grew up in Lowell.
Ah, okay.
Yes.
He was used to the hookers hanging around the bar.
Yeah, no, I did not. I delivered beer and Lowell. I delivered booze and Lowell for a while. That's about it.
All right. Well, why don't we play the name game? I like to throw a name out at you.
All right.
And considering that I have names for another Christian Angus, this ought to be really fun. So, you know what I mean?
You want me to do this?
You can have, please help out.
Mike Hollow.
Mike Hollow, excellent trainer. Loved him. You know, he was the head guy, taught me everything I know for whatever that's worth, I guess, but I'm here now, so that's good enough. It's funny, one class, he did a test of everybody. He goes, listen, I'm going to bring you over, I'm going to whisper something, and I want to know what you think. And so he came over, right, and the whisper's like, hey, listen, Vince McMahon's calling, but you got to do like a super gay character, very feminine, very frilly, all that thing. What do you say? And I go, well, it's like a character, right? Like, I don't have to become gay. So, yeah, that's fine.
Right.
He's like, good answer. Because I'm like, wait a minute, this is like not real. Like, I think I'll be fine.
That's a let. Keep going.
How about Arch Kincaid, who doesn't come up on the show very
Intellectual
often?
Arch Kincaid. Great guy. Traveled with him a bit. Like, I'd pick him up at his apartment. Picked him at his apartment. It's an absolute dump. I go, dude, you want to pick something up around here? He's like, I'm having a lot of away games. I'm like, cool. But super into wrestling. I think he would probably admit not like a natural athlete.
No, not at all.
And boy, like, especially in the early days, he was like stiff. So we were doing a match. It was like one of these. It was a show that like Mike set up because Hollow was the ref. So I think it was like a little bit of a charity thing or something like that. It was me and Arch, and I've seen the video, and we're doing the thing where you do like, you know, you punch each other and give a punch, and he hits me, and it's just like square in the jaw, and it's like, come on. And Hollow's like, you know, he's doing the arm thing. He's like, Jesus, you're a potato factory. But great guy. I thought he was awesome. I loved it, and the dude was like, man, was he committed. And like, he lived that gimmick. It was awesome.
All right. How about Brian Malonis?
I was just going to ask.
Oh, Brian Malonis.
Yeah, because considering that Brian just loved Arch Kincaid.
So Brian started training like the tail end of like my run there. And I actually, one of the shows I went to with my kids, Brian was working. And he did his autographed pictures for like my kids and stuff like that. So it was really cool.
That is cool.
And I'm like, how's it going, man? He's like, how's it supposed to be going? I'm like 20 years in the business. I'm like, all right, cool.
He was talking like that when I first met him, though.
But you see on social media, I guess he lost like a bunch of weight.
Yeah,
he's trying to.
Yeah, he looks great.
He's getting a little bit more, you know, spry or whatever. So
cool. And he was on TV for a while. He got signed to 2 contracts with Ring of Honor. So
I wasn't watching Ring of Honor when he was on there, but obviously I know about it from like, you know, looking at stuff. But yeah, no, nice guy. And again, towards the tail end, but like another dude that was super into it and, you know, making the dream happen.
How about a guy I don't bring up too often? Tony Omega and the security guards.
Oh, yes. So he was like the greenest of the green. At Kowalski, you know, CW.
Even after 10 years.
Yeah, like it kind of took a while for him to get it, right? And then he got like the security gig, and boy, did he love that because he had like a role, you know what I mean? And he looks with arms crossed.
Yeah,
and
he's
stuff
part
like
of the whole show.
Whole show, he loved it.
Straightest I've ever seen him stand up.
Oh, I mean, it was his time to shine, you know. But yeah, I mean, I think, you know, listen, I think some folks it takes a little bit longer to, you know, get your feet underneath you, and it just took him a little bit longer.
Do you want to go a couple more?
I have no idea what he did after like 1999, 2000.
That was pretty much it.
Oh, okay.
I think so.
We were around when Hanson was around.
Hanson.
Warbeard.
Oh yeah, very end. Handsome Johnny.
Yeah.
So yeah, I caught the very end of Handsome Johnny. I saw him. So when I was dating my wife, I was living in Quincy, and there was a couple shows at the Armory. Jose Perez was there, and Handsome Johnny was there, and I recognized him, and he was going, you know, doing his climb there. But didn't know him real well, other than like worked a couple shows with him. He just seemed like a really, you know, nice guy, great guy. Moved well, especially for a big dude.
Yeah,
still does.
I'll bring up a name that never gets brought up here.
Okay.
Randy Hales.
Who?
Randy Hale. Randy.
From Chaotic?
Yes, Randy.
Was that a wrestler, Randy, or the owner?
Short guy, the crew cut?
Yeah.
Yeah. He was an owner?
Yeah.
Okay, so like you gotta understand, I kind of just showed up for these shows.
I didn't really care.
I probably would have done a better job in my career if I like understood who everybody was. But people that like were holding the clipboard, I just assumed they could tell me what to do, so I like listened to them.
Listen, I get 22 years of being oblivious. Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
Right.
But because my understanding is, was there some sort of fallout with him and Chaotic or whatever, something like that?
They just kind of didn't see things eye to eye.
They didn't see eye to eye.
Randy went out and wrote a book. You know, I was one of the few people ever get along with a guy for some reason. I don't know why.
I got along with him. I thought he was great.
I liked him. I liked him. I liked Milo.
We'd hang out after the shows and have beers and stuff like that. I thought all those guys were great. Quite frankly, I didn't have any heat with any of them. I thought they were. That's why I liked working for Chaotic so much.
Any experiences with Milo himself?
Just not really anything. No.
Rich Palladino.
Oh, I love Rich.
He's the best.
Love Rich. Rich made me look. Whenever there's a show I bring my kids to, and Rich is there, Rich makes me look like an absolute superstar in front of my kids. Like I'm still in the business.
Yeah.
Beyond Wrestling.
I can see that.
Beyond Wrestling at Sixth String in Foxborough there. So Orange Cassidy, Chris Statlander, Pillman Jr., John Silver, they're all there. Took my kids, the whole family. And, he was there. He made sure I got the family picture with Orange Cassidy, with Chris Statlander.
Nice.
They were all wearing jean jackets and sunglasses. This is still, early AEW, but I was like, you gotta check this guy out.
Yeah.
So just a great guy. I loved it. And, the first time I saw him after like my time away, whatever like that, I'm like, hey, remember me? He's like, Scarecrow, what's happening, brother? I'm like,
Rich don't forget.
No, Rich doesn't forget anything.
No, he was great.
And he's awesome, dude. Another guy lost over 100 pounds.
Yes, he did.
He's fantastic.
I witnessed his journey on social media.
Yes, I did too.
But that's how I got a hold of him, because I was like, hey, I'm actually going to the show with a kid. You still announcing it? He was like, absolutely, come on down. Blah,
and he told you to go to a good one, too. That was a good one.
That was a good one.
Definitely. All right, how about Frankie Armadillo? Remember Frankie?
Not sure I know who that is.
No,
all right.
You probably wouldn't know him.
No. Well,
how about Andre Lyons? You remember Andre?
No.
Okay.
The Mighty Mini.
It might have been just after you.
Yeah.
Who was his... Did he have a work name or something?
Just as Andre Lyons.
Andre Lyons.
Then Pete Malloy worked there too.
Yeah. They were
the young kid.
Yeah,
right?
he was very young when you were there.
He was starting when I was leaving. He was like 16 or something.
Yeah, he was very, very young.
Little kid.
Small.
Yeah.
Very small.
Yeah.
I might have had a, because when Chaotic was like, they had like a tryout, if you will.
Right.
And because I wasn't like under contract, I had worked like maybe one show up there. So like they invited me to the tryout, but it was sort of like, and I want to say I worked like a demo match with Pete. And it was pretty cool.
Yeah.
It's sort of like working through the room.
And he had the girl with him too, Pete did, remember? I can't remember her name.
I don't remember that at all.
So Chaotic's advice to me, because I used to talk through my matches.
Right.
Like I'd just be talking the entire time.
Yep.
And like to the crowd. Because like, sometimes these crowds are like quiet.
Right.
Like, I don't know, the quietness like bothered me.
Yeah.
So it'd be like, hey, check this out, or like watch this, or like, hey, I can't believe I missed that guy, And so it was like almost like this like like improvisational like stand-up comedy routine.
Right.
And they were like, hey, listen, Chris, we think you're hilarious, but like you gotta stop doing that. Like you don't see anybody on WWF talking through their matches.
Right.
So why don't you just work the match? I'm like, okay, I'll do that for you guys.
I'm guilty of that. I used to do that frequently.
Yeah.
I do my own commentary during my matches, just
Right.
Like, oh man, that's a pain that's gonna linger. I'm like, I can't believe you hit me so hard.
I remember specifically I did some little fancy move to, I think it was Sonny actually.
Right.
And some old guy in the crowd goes, what do you do for an encore? They did something really frilly and flippy. They rolled off a Sonny, rolled out of the ring and rolled right in the guy's face. I said, your wife.
God, Jesus. All right, how about Tim McNeely?
Oh yeah.
Graduate.
The Graduate, I think he did like the Doink gimmick in a couple indie shows
Probably.
too, right?
I wouldn't doubt a lot of people did the
Yeah.
doink.
So he was like, I was so intimidated, but like he was like an actual like real life wrestler, like when I was starting out.
Absolutely.
And so I was just like, yes sir, that kind of thing.
Yeah, you get like that where you walk in and the guys are in your same level, then you see a couple other guys, even if you haven't heard of them, it's like, yeah.
So like him and Dukes were like pro wrestlers.
Yeah,
right.
You know what I'm
Absolutely.
saying? So I just like, if they like talk to me, I'd be like, yeah, cool, that's great. But like I wasn't like, hey dude, what's happening?
How about Ronnie Delicious and Edward G. Ecstasy?
Oh, the one night
The
stand.
one night stand.
Didn't have a ton of interaction with them, but I do remember one night, I think it was me and Stud were tagging, or maybe it was the me and Cue Ball days. And we were like doing like a run-in, or like they were feuding with somebody else. And so it was a situation where, you know, some like weapons were being involved, or chairs or something like that. And, you know, one of them got like a little liberal with like something, like throwing something at me. And I couldn't remember what it was. And like at this point, I had like done some actual fighting training. So like I wasn't about to take crap.
Right.
You know? And I was enough in the business where like you're allowed to stand up for yourself. And so I was supposed to hit them with like a locker door or something like that. So I think it was Edward G. Ecstasy. And boy, did I lace into him. And it bent enough around the head to like cut his shoulder. And I'm like, what? That kind of thing.
That's awesome.
He was so strong. He was one of those guys that didn't know how strong he was. I wrestled him one time in Connecticut. Now, I was a health nut. And the only thing I found healthy to eat on the way down was a bunch of raisins. Don't eat a bunch of raisins for a match, especially when you're going to have Edward G. Ecstasy spine bustering you all around. I was in a race against time, against crapping my pants and having this match, and that was a finish. He hit me with a spine buster, and I rolled out, and I was holding the rear end sheets together.
They were like, as a fan back then, they were like, I thought they were like really like that. You know what I mean? Like really like these guys that, you know, would degrade women and all. You know what I mean?
I know Ronnie for a while. Ronnie's a nice guy, actually. You know, for what I know him.
He's got a Facebook account, but I can't get him.
Yeah, Aaron Stevens, his first big sort of gimmicks in Chaotic was like his 1/3 of the new one-night stand, stuff like that.
And he's done well for himself.
Has he? Well,
you know, I mean, I think he's still working again. He had stopped, I guess, and then he came back to the NWA Power.
Oh, yeah, he did the wrestler retirement thing, which just basically means I need like a month off.
Right.
Yeah, pretty much.
All right. How about Dr. Heresy?
No interaction.
No. Okay.
Reginald Heresy, right?
Yes.
Just remember the name from posters.
Yeah.
So
I like the gimmick name.
Instead of a name game, I have a question.
Yes.
What was? Did you ever witness Mike have a crack fit at anybody in the at the school?
Oh, he screamed. Tony Omega pissed him off quite a few times.
You got any one standout story maybe about Mike losing his mind? I love stories like this because I used to lose my mind when I trained people.
God, you know, I wish I did, but like I knew that like Arch would annoy him. I knew that like Omega would annoy him and stuff like that. But like I don't have like a you know, where he like flips the, you know, catering table over or anything like that. Didn't get any of that.
I've never seen Mike that angry, so I've never been in a training facility with him either.
You haven't been around him when he's training wrestlers.
Yeah, no, it's you know, it's one of those things where like he couldn't stand it. Like he would say something, and here's how you do it, and demonstrate how to do it. He's like, okay, now you guys try, and then it would just be like this cluster to be the disappointment on his face, and because you know, the issue with those wrestling schools is like there's no tryout.
Right.
So like if someone's check clears, you kind of got to like at least put forth an effort.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's true.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Very true. All right. How about Tommaso Ciampa? You must have crossed paths with him just at the end.
Must have missed him.
No, he would have come in much. He would have come in probably a couple of years after.
Yeah.
He was in there.
Yeah. No. The only thing I know about him is that he was a chaotic
Did you ever
guy.
work with John Walters?
Yes.
Really?
Yeah. There you
Yes,
go.
me and Cue Ball versus Vince Vicalo and John Walters. 12 pack.
Yeah. 12
yes,
pack.
that's right.
John was great. I mean, just a wrestler's wrestler. He obviously worshipped Chris Benoit, but like we all did.
Right.
Obviously, you know, Chris Benoit, but like we all did. You know, and all those same, you know, Jericho's and Benoit's, all those dudes. And you know, he was great to work with. I thought him and Vince were a great tag team, and like we had a pretty good match against them.
I believe it.
Best 2 out of 3 falls.
Yeah.
And just easy. And then it's funny because when I was out of it, I still would follow him a little bit. And he was wrestling like in Mexico.
Yep.
With a ugly American kind of gimmick.
Jay
Oh,
Brewer.
yeah.
Yes.
Jay Brewer, yeah.
Yes.
And was it Ann Brewer?
Yeah, I think so.
Something like that.
So he was on like a Chronicle type show or like some like a documentary thing, and it was about how like, you know, he's the ugly, you know, ugly American, you know, wrestling in Mexico as the heel, you know.
Yep.
But then he would like do the interview, but he was still in character.
Yeah.
He's like, these are things that I actually feel. Like this isn't just a gimmick. And I'm like, oh, you shouldn't have done that.
Oh.
No, in interviews, be regular.
Right. Yeah, he doesn't wrestle or anything anymore. I mean, he came back and had a match up here not that long ago.
Yep.
He was on Ring of Honor television like
That
before they sold AEW.
Yeah, they brought back some older guys to take on the newer guys. And matter of fact, they first when it got announced, it was right when COVID hit.
Yeah.
Because COVID stopped it. And it happened like maybe 18 months later.
Yeah. No, he was a great wrestler.
Yeah. Oh, really
great
good.
wrestler from the jump.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Well, let's continue the compliment fed. How about Ortiz?
Oh, yeah, another
Yeah.
one. He was like one of the studs of the CW,
Definitely.
you know, because he could do like that. He could do a lot of the luchador stuff, where like a dude like me wasn't gonna pull that off. Like I could do moonsaults, and for a big guy, I was pretty agile, so that was like impressive. But like he could like actually do it, and a good worker too, in terms of like. See, the thing that like, you know, Kowalski and CW and really Mike Hollow like instilled in all of us guys, and why some of them went pretty far was just the philosophy. You know what I mean? You didn't do stuff that didn't make any sense.
Right.
And like we all worship.
See a lot of that now.
Well, we all worship ECW, which
Right.
could get a little bit into that kind of spot fest thing. And he'd be like, you know, listen, if you're gonna do spots, they gotta like matter. And so it was great, you know, just that whole kind of like philosophy. Whereas like you're right, you didn't see that on some other shows.
Right. How about Nick Steele?
Don't
I
know.
don't think you would know Nick Steele.
Mav, help out, huh?
I am helping. What are you talking about?
No, I'm trying to think of chaotic guys from back then.
So I met Tommy Dreamer at a Primal Conflict show.
Beautiful.
There we go.
So
You said
awesome.
you had a story.
I did, yes. So
There you go.
this is the one in Wakefield, right? And so in the locker room, which is down in the basement, someone had they got like a quarter barrel, like a beer, you know? So these guys, they're probably getting high too, but now,
Oh, come on.
like I like partying.
Yeah.
I can't stand drinking before I do like a physical
Oh,
activity.
yeah. Right. Exactly.
So like I play beer league hockey, I drink beer after hockey.
Right.
Even if I'm bowling, I don't like love drinking because it takes the edge off too much. If I'm whatever, you know what I'm saying? So especially for, you know, professional wrestling,
Yeah.
I'm not going to be drinking beforehand.
Right.
So all these guys are. You know, and I'm like, this is kind of a big show, especially for Primal Conflict. It's like 400 people in the crowd.
Right.
And, you know, Tommy Dreamer's there, and Balls Mahoney, and, you know, and I'm standing next to Tommy. I go, hey, man, listen, I just want to say I'm a big fan. You know, it's really nice to meet you. I appreciate you coming down and doing this kind of stuff. He's like, yeah, cool, that's great. He goes, let me ask you something. Does this look like professional wrestling to you? And and I'm like, thank God I did not get a cup of beer. I'm like, absolutely not. These guys are savages. I can't believe they're doing this. And I'm like, wow. But he was just like calm, cool, collective.
Right.
You know, just doing his job. But he's just like, give me a break. Yeah. And because he's like Mr. ECW.
Yeah.
All these guys probably thought that he would be like right there with
Right.
them. He's like, no.
No.
No, he helped run the merchandising.
Yeah.
He
Yeah.
helped run the show.
No,
So he's a
Tommy's got
responsible
smart.
guy.
Yeah, he's like, I'm do crazy stuff in the ring, but like, it's professional wrestling.
Yeah.
You got a job to do. Why would you be? Why would you have a couple beers before that?
Now he had a company too, House of Hardcore.
Okay, yep.
I catered for him 3 times.
No kidding.
Yeah, it was awesome. I mean, Tommy's a great guy.
Yep.
He actually, when he was with Impact, which he's still with now, he hit me up telling me that they wanted catering and tried to hook me up with a paid gig.
Nice.
You know, and he's like, charge him full price, everything. And then they found out it was that the show was at a hotel, and the hotel wouldn't
did
allow
their own,
outside food. So they had to get it from them.
I still listen to him on the Busted Open podcast.
Oh, yeah.
The Busted Open radio show on Sirius XM. He's great, man.
He still does shows. He did some shows for Trooper not that long ago.
Really?
Yeah, down at in Rhode Island.
Jeez, dude just works, huh?
Yeah,
So yeah, it was super cool to meet him, and I like that he was like a total
Right.
pro about it, you know. And I like that I didn't screw up in front of him, so that was even better.
Right. Well, see, and I love ECW too.
Yeah.
How about we talk about some of the characters from ECW?
All right.
Raven.
Well, I wish I met Raven. He was way too big by the time I got into it. He was in Raven's flock in WCW. So I worked a match with Little Guido.
Nice.
I split the back of my head open on his knee. Oh, totally my fault. I dropped the elbow from the wrong side. His knee was up, and he had a knee pad on. The back of my head smashed his knee. So I busted myself wide open right here. And you know, it's a tag match, and I'm on the apron, and I could feel it. I'm like, oh, let me see. And like at the time, I wore a glove, and it's just like covered in blood. I'm like, ugh. So I go,
Yeah, might as well.
put it down the front,
It's
and you know,
there.
I can hear Rich Palladino, Scarecrow's covered in blood.
Hey, that crimson mask. Yeah.
And so I did the match, and it was, you know, he was great. He's like, "You okay?" I'm like, "Yeah, it's totally my fault." You know, I went from the wrong side. And you know, it's like Friday night. I get home, my buddies are like, "Jesus," they're like, you know, "You go to the hospital for stitches?" Like we had a party at my house. I wasn't going anywhere, so a couple butterflies are good to go.
That's funny.
So little Guido worked a show with New Jack.
Yeah.
Not match. And to be honest, I wouldn't work a match with New Jack.
I hear you.
I cared too much.
That's smart.
I cared too much about like making it out of there alive.
Yeah, no doubt.
And like his reputation was horrible.
Yeah. And all it takes is one mistake. You know what I mean? Like just one little accident. And he could take it the wrong way.
He just kind of seemed like an asshole.
Yeah, oh yeah.
He hacked somebody open with an X-Acto knife, for God's sake.
Well, and that's the thing too. It's like I was also at the point where like I'm not going to let this guy take liberties with me.
Right.
No.
And then what am I going to do? Get in a fist fight?
Right.
Yeah, that's not entertaining.
You're
for
in a
anybody.
fist fight, he brings a knife. You know, that's what's going to happen there.
Well, I had
No doubt.
actually, I had done like knife edged impact weapon training too. So
There you go.
it could have been something. But anyway, I was just stay far away from that one.
Well, ECW had great tag teams too.
Yes,
I mean, RVD and Sabu.
I love watching those guys, man.
Me too.
That's what that was ECW for me.
Yeah.
It's like any Rob Van Dam match when he got up to WWE. I remember like I'm standing on the edge of the TV. I'm like, oh, this guy's gonna kill it.
That brings
And
up
that
an
match he
interesting
did with
question.
Cena at that ECW one night stand.
Oh,
That was an incredible match.
I don't know how burying the lead. John Cena used to come to the Chaotic Training Center.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so him and I would like roll around the ring.
Nice.
Because this is towards the tail end of my run. And at this point, I had like some of the actual real wrestling training.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And like, what a great guy, man.
Very.
And like,
Really nice
you know, I knew some of the real stuff and a little wrestling stuff. We would like roll around like submission type things. And like, he was just, the dude was on television.
Right.
He was about to ascend to superstardom. And he's still coming to North Andover to like roll around with a bunch of nobodies.
He would get a week off. He would get a week off from the Smoky Mountain.
Yeah. No, Ohio Valley.
Ohio Valley Wrestling.
Yeah.
And he would,
Jeez, what the hell?
and he would, yeah, really.
I
He
got
didn't have the right Christian angers. What the hell?
It's not Christian. It's just Chris.
I know.
Unreal. Unreal, guys.
But that dude was you talk about like just a frame that can put mass on.
Yeah.
His fingers were like hot dogs and his wrists were like this big. Like I'm obviously taller than he is and stuff, but the dude was just so like the ability to put on mass. He just looked fantastic. It was awesome. But no, great guy. Unbelievable.
And the Eliminators.
That's where I was coming to. Was Perry up at the school when you were there?
No, I wish.
Probably not.
No,
That
he was in
probably a little before
WCW.
you.
He was
Yep.
absolutely killing it in WCW. He did come by though.
Yeah.
So he came by and he talked to us, and you know, he was super intense but super great. You know, I mean, he was one of these dudes where it's like, listen, if you're super serious about it, we can hang out. If you're just doing this like because like you want to like work in front of your friends,
Right.
I got no time for you.
Yep.
Saturn came by the school. Prince Albert was by the school.
Nice.
You know, quite a bit.
Yep.
What's his name? Can't remember his real name. Andrew, Adam. I don't know. But he came by.
Matt Bloom?
Matt Bloom. There you go. He would come by for a little bit and like work with us and stuff like that. And it was just great, you know.
Nice. All right.
Lyndon Byers was training when I was starting out.
Who was?
Lyndon Byers.
The hockey player. You got to be
the
kidding
enforcer
me.
for the Bruins.
I forgot about
He
that.
did a thing with Trooper down in Blackstone, Mass. Him and Spaz. Remember Spaz from AAF?
don't know him.
No?
Yes,
Oh yes, I
do.
do. I remember him.
Yep.
They did it, and we were down there. Actually, I paid Trooper $100 to shoot the show. And I was doing this thing with Bob McCarthy. We were doing little skits in between. It was pretty cool. But LB was there that night.
He didn't have quite the right attitude for like intentionally losing things.
Right.
So, you know, didn't quite work out for him.
LB. That's hilarious. All right, how about Sabu?
Just watched him on TV.
Yeah.
Huge fan. It's too bad that when he got like his big break on like WWE, he was kind of like it was a little bit long in the tooth.
Yeah, it's too bad. It really is. Because
But like
I mean,
that
he
dude-
killed himself for wrestling. He really did.
Well, that's the thing, you know. It's like a lot of those guys kind of did,
Yeah.
and then like like the dudes in the indies or like like with PCW guys, they're trying to do the same stuff like on TV, but it's like, dude, there's like nobody in this building.
Yeah.
And like, you know, you're at the beginning of your like journey. Like you gotta be a little smarter about it. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
Like don't do something that like, if there's like a 50, like I would go into matches and like, you know, I was a huge ECW mark. So it's like, you know, I wanted to be like a little hurt at the end of the match, like actual really physically hurt, you know, because that way I figured I'm tight enough, I'm being stiff enough, and it looks real enough.
Nothing's more real than real.
Right, you know what I mean? So you got to be a little, it's got to hurt, right? But like these other guys, it's like, if there's like a 50-50 shot of like really hurting yourself, don't do that spot.
Right.
So, you know.
And it's so weird, like matches back then, like you said, you know, you did a dive over the rope.
Yeah.
But that's when it really started. Like these dives, you know what I mean? Now, if there's a 6-way match or a 6-man tag team match, everybody's got to hit a dive. So that means everybody's got to stand there and wait. And it's just ridiculous.
Like, so nowadays, I'm a big AEW fan.
Right.
And I got, you know, I'm really into it and that kind of thing. But like, even I am like, there might be a little bit too much blood on this show.
Yeah.
I mean, every Wednesday.
Moxley.
It's Wednesday night.
Yeah. It's not just him, though.
No, it's not just him, but like it's like these guys are bleeding buckets, and it's like, dude, like,
yeah, but a few weeks ago, did you see him sitting in the corner, facing in the ring, and he's sitting there like this?
Yeah, that was too obvious.
I was like, that's kind of, you know, I mean,
that reminded me of like John
the cameraman's fault on that, if you ask me.
Yeah,
you know
Cronus
what I mean?
had one of those awful like open midair blade jobs, and like Pro Wrestling Illustrated was like all, you know, clutching their pearls and stuff like that. But they do have a point.
Yeah.
Like it's still theater of the mind. You gotta like hide it a little bit.
What do you think about MJF?
Love him.
Me too.
I think he's just an unbelievable heel. When I saw him in Chaotic, I don't even know that I heard the name before.
Right.
I knew AEW was starting up, and someone like, yeah, this guy's gonna, you know, this guy's, you know, trying out or could be in there.
Right.
And like the second he stepped through the curtain, I'm like, oh, this dude's a pro.
He's a star.
Yeah.
And they gave him a promo.
It's unbelievable.
He's just a star.
He obviously cut a promo, and I'm like, you know, I'm like grabbing my kids, I'm like, dude, check this guy out.
Absolutely.
This dude.
He's the best in the business right now, in my opinion.
He
Wrestling.
Is. If he's not, he's right there at this point.
You know?
He really is.
The only people you would put above him is maybe people that have a track record of entertaining you for like 10 years. But that is it.
Yeah.
That's it. And
Yeah,
I probably wouldn't, but I'll entertain those opinions.
Yeah, he just doesn't stretch those muscles yet. You know?
No, well, he just doesn't have the 10,000 hours or whatever you want to say. But like that dude, and like he has been so close to like having to go face because he's just too damn popular.
So charismatic.
And then he'll do something where it's just like, you can't.
Yeah, you can't. Exactly. It's
what was he did this weekend? He threw a drink in some kid's face.
Oh, yeah.
And it turned out to be tequila.
Yeah.
No.
And they asked him about it. He said, yeah, the kid looked thirsty.
Kid looked thirsty. But like, what was the promo we did where like right at the end of it about, you know, the girl in the car or whatever, and Excalibur goes, it's official. MJF is the worst person on planet Earth. And I'm like, that is perfect, man.
That is
absolutely perfect. But like, no, from the first match I saw him, like, this dude has got it.
He's like, I think of him as like everything like Miz should be.
Yeah.
Oh, I can't stand the Miz. Right. I had a interaction with the Miz when I was working I was the manager of the door at Jillian's.
All right.
Towards the tail end of, you know, the wrestling thing. And I was pals with Chris Nowinski. Chris Harvard there?
Yep.
And Chris Harvard.
He's getting my brain, yes.
Yeah. But anyway, he was pals with, you know, Miz.
Yep.
And so they were coming over to, you know, to Jillian's, and I was like, you know, at the door or whatever like that. And Miz, like, he kind of like, he did something along the lines of like, hey, you know who I am? Like that.
Yeah.
God.
And I'm like, you know, because I'm still in the wrestling business at this time. And I'm like, you're goddamn well right. I know who you are. And I know if the people that know you, that know me, knew you were talking like this, you'd have a serious problem, wouldn't they? He's like, sorry, sir.
That's awesome.
And I'm like, oh, I just always thought he was an a-hole. I didn't like how he got into the business. I couldn't stand the real world BS. It's just like everything about rubbed him the wrong way. And then when he was actually successful, it's like, this is crap.
Yeah. And the worst part is, look at his wife.
Whatever, dude. But it's just like, I was like resentful of his success for sure, which is just pure sour grapes. But what are you gonna do?
What did you think about the thing with Punk and the scrum and all that?
That better be a work.
I
don't think it is.
Yeah, I don't think it is. I really don't.
But like, what is wrong with CM Punk?
Right.
Did you forget that this is the wrestling business?
Right, exactly.
You won the championship.
Yeah. You just came back, they gave you the belt and a lot of money.
I don't even want to know how much money they paid.
Exactly.
And he was super over. Yeah. And like, what exactly was his problem?
Yeah.
He
doesn't like that those three have like power positions.
That's the company you chose to work for.
Exactly.
He may even have a point, but we've gone. I've gotten my own little brouhaha with the guy myself, for God's sake.
He seems like an a-hole.
There's a lot of stories around him
plenty of times
about him
just
really just treating people.
Here's the
nicely.
thing, dude. Day one of wrestling school.
Right.
One of the first things you learn, or they tell you, is that nobody's bigger than the business.
Right.
The biggest star ever could disappear tomorrow, and it would be just fine.
Yep.
And it's like CM Punk doesn't know that.
Right.
And this is a guy that came up like the hard way.
Yeah.
And he doesn't know that? What is wrong with you? Like, this is what happens when people fall in love with the smell of their own crap.
Yep.
You become CM Punk.
Yep.
And you shoot your way out of a door of what, like, he was like back.
Right.
He was the hottest thing going in pro wrestling.
I've met him quite a few times, and he's always been a prick.
There
Honestly,
you go.
Always been a prick.
Yeah.
You know, and it doesn't surprise me, though, that he continues to be like that, because that's just the guy that he is, you know?
Not to mention, I mean, I guess he's got enough money where he doesn't have to do anything, but like, I hope. But like, where are you going to work now? WWE wants nothing to do with you.
No.
Nothing to do with you.
I think he was doing well on his own. He doesn't really care.
No, you're right. You're right, because he does little things like he'll do commentating on a mixed martial arts fight, or he's making comic books and things like that.
What a maroon. Thought he could be in UFC?
Yeah.
Jesus.
He couldn't even beat up Teddy Hart. Seriously.
And like, you know, you got a problem with Omega, like having a voice. Kenny Omega's like one of the best wrestlers on the planet, dude. Know your role. So at any rate.
Right. I'm not a fan of the Young Bucks, though. I gotta say that Kenny Omega's a pretty damn good wrestler, but not a fan of the Young Bucks.
The Young Bucks gimmick doesn't speak to me because it's more of like a younger person's thing.
Right. And they're not young anymore.
No, I know, but I do like their matches.
Right.
I can't lie. Like they've had some serious throwouts.
You know what I mean? I'm sure there's guys that you like that I don't have the same thing. You know?
I don't know why everyone's so hot on Eddie Kingston.
Right.
I mean, like people worship him, and I'm like, he's okay.
Did you want to plug social media or anything?
No.
All right. Scarecrow, thanks for coming on,
Appreciate
it. Guys, we're out.
Nice to see you again.
Hi, guys. I hope you're enjoying the show. Listen, I could use a little help to grow my YouTube channel. So if you could please like, share, and subscribe. That's most importantly, subscribe. Send me a direct message, and I'll give you a shout out here on the show. My YouTube channel is real simple. It's just my name, Leo Connors. Thanks in advance. Peace.